Hello listener, and welcome to this edition of New Life program coming your way from Adventist World Radio, the voice of hope. I'm your presenter, Imelda Ariso. As always, it's our privilege to ensure that you get the facts and information concerning your family living. It remains the same today as we focus on carrying burdens. Thereafter, we shall get the bread of life from Pastor Mutua, titled, Do You Want to Be Healed? Let's take a short break with this item of music by Barbara Curtis, titled, No Other Word for Grace But Amazing. Stay tuned.
In the air when it snows, marvelous can't have conveyed the grace of my King. The only word for grace is amazing. There's no other word for grace but amazing. No other explanation will do. Unmerited favor, the song that I sing. No other word for grace but amazing. Now the Father looked beyond all the failures I had made. He didn't seem to notice all the times I had not obeyed. You see, he overlooked all the scars of sin I held in me, and that grace he showed, it still amazes me. And there's no other word for grace but amazing. No other explanation will do. Unmerited favor, the song that I sing. No other word for grace but amazing. There's no other word for God's grace but amazing. But now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see.
I can't imagine how life will be without God's amazing grace. Can you? I doubt. Let's now prepare to listen to Berry Laceno as she talks to us about carrying burdens.
Hello, listener. Have you ever tried to explain to your children why, when your burden is heavy, Jesus said, "Take my yoke upon you, for my burden is light"? That text about Christ's burden being light might certainly be confusing, especially to a child. But after you hear what Dr. Kuzma has to say and the story she tells on her brother, you'll have a whole new perspective. My brother, Rich, had a weekly burden. It was his job to mow the lawn. Those were the days before every family had a power mower. The job took time and energy that he would much rather spend playing ball with his buddies. But Mom had a rule: no ball until the lawn was mowed. Rich balked, he procrastinated, he pleaded, but nothing would change Mom's mind. The burden was his. One beautiful summer day, a friend called early. "Rich, the young guys are playing baseball on the vacant lot about 10. Can you come and pitch? We need you." "I'd love to," said Rich, "but it's lawn mowing day, and even if I'd start this minute, I could never be done by 10. And you know my mom, she'd never let me play ball without mowing the lawn first." Then light dawned. "But if you'd bring your mower over and help me, I bet we could get it done by 10. A few minutes later, Mike appeared with his mower, and the boys began racing to see who could keep ahead of the other. They laughed and yelled and threw grass at each other and made a game out of lawn mowing. In record time, the lawn was done. The next lawn mowing day, Rich called a couple of his buddies for a lawn mowing party. More fun, and the job was accomplished even faster. Lawn mowing was no longer a burden. Why? Because Rich called in previously untapped resources, and working in cooperation with others lightened the load. Now, what does all this have to do with taking Jesus' yoke upon us when we already have more burdens than we can carry? Just this: a yoke is used to distribute the weight of a heavy load so it can be more easily carried. By taking Jesus' yoke, the weight of our heavy burden is shared with him and is much lighter for us. You can help your children understand the truth of Matthew chapter 11, verse 29 to 30 by asking the children to pretend they have to carry 5 gallons of water. Most kids could hardly pick up the container, let alone carry it for any distance. How could the load be made to feel lighter? One answer is to put the water into 2 containers and tie the containers on opposite ends of a long pole. Put the pole on your shoulders and the load, although weighing slightly more because of the pole, would be much easier to carry. That's what Jesus does to our problems when we take his yoke. In essence, he says, "I've got resources, like my yoke, that will lighten your burden if you just ask me." This is a great answer for all kinds of problems kids have. For example, the term paper that needs to be written, no friends at school, forgetting to feed the dog. What should kids do? Instead of shirking the burden of responsibility and giving up, they can, first, ask Jesus for help. Ask for his yoke, his resources. And second, accept the resources, the yoke that he provides, like the friends and their lawn mowers that Rich used to lighten the lawn mowing task. A burden will never be too heavy to carry if kids remember that God has resources that are beyond our wildest imaginations. Let's just ask for his yoke to make our burdens bearable. This script is written by courtesy of Dr. K. Kuzma, and I am your presenter, Beryl Asima.
If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about our program, please write to the producer, Adventist World Radio, P.O. Box 42276, code 00100, Nairobi, Kenya. And our email address is awrnairobi@eau.adventist.org. Be blessed by this lovely music by Truth Records titled Let Me Be There. If you have just joined us, this is Adventist World Radio, the voice of hope. On the program New Life, coming to you daily at this time. The next segment is a Bible study program by Pastor Mutua. Be blessed.
My friend, our lesson today is the last one in the series whereby we have been talking about salvation. Today we will answer this question: do you want to be healed? In the book of John chapter 5 verse 1 to 9, I read, "Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool in Hebrew called Bethsaida, which has 5 porticos. In these lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, paralyzed. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew that he had been lying there for a long time, he said to him, 'Do you want to be healed?' The sick man answered him, 'Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is troubled, and while I am going, another steps down before me.' Jesus said to him, 'Rise, take up your pallet, and walk.' And at once the man was healed, and he took up his pallet and walked." According to reliable sources, it is said that the water of this pool was disturbed by angels from heaven about 3 o'clock p.m., at exactly the time a lamb was offered as sin offering by the priest. It was exactly the 9th hour when Jesus died on the cross. In the book of Matthew chapter 27 verse 46 and 50 it says, "And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, 'Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?' That is, 'My Lord, my God, why have you forsaken me?' And Jesus cried again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit." The entire human race has become sick because of sin. Isaiah chapter 1 verse 5 and 6, "Why will you still be smitten, that you continue to rebel? The wool head is sick, and the wool heart is faint. From the sole of the foot even to the head, there is no soundness in it, but bruises and sores and bleeding wounds. They are not pressed out, or bound up, or softened with oil." Many realize their unfortunate situation, but do not know who will take them to the healing Jesus. Desperate attempts have been made over and over again to overcome sinful life, but one becomes exhausted and gives up and lays there waiting for eternal death. You see men come to Jesus and walk away forgiven and rejoicing in his name, but you do not know how. Jesus is still asking the same question. He asked the lame man, "Do you want to be healed?" Never look for another person who will take you to him. The voice which speaks now to your conscience is the voice of Christ. Do you want to be healed? Now is the time to accept his mercy. Now is the time to be healed of the wounds of sin. The story is told in Spain of a father and his teenage son who had a relationship that had become strained. So the son ran away from home. His father, however, began a journey in search of his rebellious son. Finally, in Madrid, in a last desperate effort to find him, the father put an advertisement in the newspaper. The advertisement read, "Dear Paco, meet me in front of the newspaper office at noon. All is forgiven. I love you, your father." The next day at noon, in front of the newspaper office, 800 Pacos showed up. They were all seeking forgiveness and love from their fathers. Brother and sister, let us seek healing and forgiveness from our Father Jesus Christ.
When your heart breaks
Thank you so much for your company. We've come to the end of our program today. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about our program, you can write to the producer, Adventist World Radio, P.O. Box 42276, code 00100, Nairobi, Kenya. And our email address is awrnairobi@eau.adventist.org. Until next time, I have been your presenter, Imelda Ariso. May God bless you.
Come home, come home, come home, come home, see it, come home, come home, softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling for you and for me. Calling for you and see on the portals, he's waiting and watching for you and for me. Come home, come home. You are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, oh sinner, come home, come home, come home, sinner, come home, for the Lord is there. Why should we tarry when Jesus is pleading for you and for me? Oh, and why should we linger and heed not his mercy for you and for me? Come home, come home. You are weary, come home. Tenderly, Jesus is calling for you and for me. Oh, pour le merveilleux amour qu'il a promis, calling